and welcome to episode 23 of Anniversary Edition. Today we are going to be talking about Seven Samurai, which is celebrating its 65th anniversary this year. So as always, we are going to spoil the film, so do go and watch it first if you have, 3.5 hours, and then come back and join us. So I'm Sophie, and I am here today with...
Adam, hello.
And Tom, hello.
This is a 1954 action movie?
This is the first action movie.
The first action movie ever?
It's considered by some to be, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's technically an adventure drama, according to...
They stay in the same
IMDb.
place. That's rubbish.
Yeah, but it is, it's got... I think what it did was it took a lot of tropes of action, combined them into one thing that then got distilled into the action movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's an action movie. It's Assault on Province 13.
Yeah, it's Die Hard.
So, again, I've written a slightly cheesy synopsis. So, desperate to save their village from bandit attacks, a small scouting group seek to find samurai willing to come to their village and help them fight off the bandits. So, after finding 7 samurai, shockingly, the villagers return home and the samurai get to work to help defend the village from the next attack. It's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
Top line. I'm going to come to Adam first.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Top line.
This film is way too long.
Okay.
It's way too long. It's pretty satisfying in a lot that it does and in a lot that it achieves. It's a good film at its core. It just takes too long doing things.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay.
But it's hard to stay engaged with a film for 3.5 hours. Almost impossible to stay engaged with a film for 3.5 hours in a foreign language.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't speak Japanese, this is a subtitled movie that only subtitles maybe 70-80% of its lines, which was something I had a huge problem with.
Yeah, there are a couple of one or two lines that don't, and I couldn't
a lot
work
more
out.
than that.
But I think that actually that might come down to the fact that you can concisely say in English text what's being said in Japanese. So it might be a case of the summary that we get in the subtitle is actually giving you all the information you need.
Yeah.
It just takes them longer to say it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult when someone screams for 15 seconds and then at the bottom it says I don't know, come over here.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like you're losing a lot of the detail in what you're hearing or you're supposed to be hearing. That bothered me.
Okay.
But I like the structure of it. The idea of it is great.
Yeah.
If I found out that film was being remade today, I'd be great. I'd love to go and see that.
Oh, it has been remade twice.
Yeah.
As Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
But I like the Japanese aesthetic.
You like the Japanese aesthetic, the
Yeah.
samurai aesthetic.
Tom, how about you? Top line.
I really, really liked it.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. This is the second Kurosawa film I've seen.
Okay.
And I've really liked both.
Wow, okay.
In fact, the other one I've seen is Ikaru, which is the one that he made before this.
Right.
But yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was really, really good. And I can see there are some movies that sit on these pedestals.
Mm-hmm.
Like Citizen Kane and Gone with the Wind and all this kind of stuff.
Mm.
And this is one of them that's always up there. That's voted in the top movies of top 10 movies of all time and all that kind of stuff. And you always kind of think to yourself, is it?
Yeah.
Is it really
Is it that
good that you can enjoy it?
Or is it just good for then and people of rose-coloured glasses? It's
to
the
but
top.
I really liked it. I thought it was really good. It's definitely slow.
Yes.
And I think the bit that is probably the most ponderous is the first kind of hour of getting everyone together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get samurai. We don't need to get samurai. We hate samurai. We should get samurai. We like samurai. We hate samurai.
We got some, not quite enough. Oh,
yeah.
That's the first 2 hours of the movie, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think my enjoyment of this also, I think what made it slightly easier because I have seen fairly recently the 1960 version of Magnificent Seven with Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen, James Coburn, and all of that. So I knew the plot, I knew the story, so I wasn't reliant on the subtitles to know what was happening.
Yeah.
But I was reliant on the subtitles for the characters and figuring out who was who and what role they were playing and stuff. Okay. So I think that kind of took a little bit of pressure off.
Yes.
My viewing experience, which I think helped in a weird way, because quite often it's seeing a remake before you see the original is not always the best way to do it, particularly if it's a Western remake of an Eastern film.
Yeah.
Things like The Departed and Infernal Affairs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like there are some that you need to see the originals as they were first before you see the remakes. But this, I think, actually worked in its favour because, it's a pretty linear, straightforward plot.
Yep.
But a very kind of engaging and solid one.
Yeah. I mean, I liked this film. It's kind of a genre that I'm not hugely familiar with. But yeah, I did think it was too long. I kind of had to keep trying to sort of stay focused on what was happening.
Yes.
There's a lot of people to keep track of as well.
There are, yeah. And I think
huge number.
You do lose a little when you are watching something that's subtitled, and you do have to kind of have that extra level of concentration in it. When you've got so many characters,
even a couple of the samurai look very similar. And I'm sure one of them you never find out their name.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I was just like, I'm going to have locked down, not necessarily their names, but certainly the characters. And there were a few that the characters kind of blended together a little bit for me.
Yeah.
One was an archer.
Yeah.
Who looked very similar to
the second in command.
Yeah, the second in command.
Yeah.
They were almost identical.
Yeah. And I think in the Magnificent Seven they make a bit more of making each person have a specific kind of skill or trait.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for.
Tom, you mentioned that you've seen Magnificent Seven recently. When did you first see this?
The first time I saw this was must have been last week.
Okay. Adam, when did you first see it?
I first saw this today.
Okay.
I've always wanted to see it, but this is the first time I've got around to doing it because I had to.
Yes. Sure.
Give me a time limit, I'm all over it.
Well, I had to split this up, so I watched it yesterday.
Why would you have to split it up?
Today,
he asked
I ran out of time.
There aren't enough hours in the day?
I know, surprisingly enough. There weren't quite enough hours to fit in the entire thing. So yeah, but like I said, I think it's something that I'm not hugely familiar with. But Adam, like you were saying, you wanted to see it for a long time. Is that because it's held in such esteem?
It's held in a huge amount of esteem. I'm a big fan of Japanese cinema. And I like samurai. I like the whole story of, most cultures have had a samurai kind of thing. The hedge knight, the ronin. It's a very clean story that you can do a lot with.
Yeah.
So knowing that you could make a film about 7 wandering samurai finding one maybe last thing to fight for, it's so clean. It's so hard to mess a film like that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we all kind of like it. I think from the sound of things.
Yeah. Would I watch it again?
Oh.
I would not watch the entire thing again. I think knowing how it all forms, I'd watch the last hour again.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because when it really starts going, this is a slowly accelerating movie, folks. But once it hits top speed, there's a lot there. But there's also a lot to keep track of. And you're sort of lulled into a full sense of security with the first 2 hours where you think, it's fine. It's moving along.
Yeah.
I don't even need to pay that much attention to it. If you look away for 2 minutes in the last hour, 3 characters you know will have died.
Yeah.
Yes. I struggled a little bit, I'm going to say, in the last kind of, in the action movie section of it, which in my head is, in the last hour. As kind of, I think it was probably after the second set of attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were 3 waves of attacks.
Yeah.
2 of them were a good idea. The last one was rubbish.
And I kind of was struggling to keep up with who was on screen and who died and who was.
It's the rain. It was the rain. With that much rain coming down in a black and white, low.
Yeah.
I didn't say low resolution, but that's not accurate for film. Low fidelity, maybe. I mean, we watched this off of a DVD, so the transfer not great. I mean, it's SD, so it's not. I reckon I'd love to see this on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Seeing this on Blu-ray would be great.
Yeah.
But the
because I mean, like, I thought those action sequences. Yeah, it's okay. I guess there's a few bits where it's hard to see what's going on.
Yeah.
But they look amazing.
Oh yeah, they look great, and I love the rain. Like I love the atmospheric element it added. But I think as well because I wasn't watching this on a big TV or anything like that. So I think maybe something was was lost, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely kind of felt that was slightly more difficult to keep track of in that last section.
Sure, in black and white, with that much going on, the rain, the mud, the puddles, the splashing, arrows, you'd have no chance of seeing arrows.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on to see. I think if you watch it in the cinema, you'd have a much better experience.
Yeah, I think you would.
I'd like to see this in the cinema. I think it makes one of those kind of sort of like perfect sort of Sunday or bank holiday movies that's on for an inordinate amount of time. And
when you always flick back to a channel and the same movie's still playing.
Yeah. And it's kind of like it may be 4 or 5 times of watching it, but you're just kind of like it's just on.
Yeah.
And then after you think I've seen this movie, I must have seen this movie like 4 or 5 times, then you kind of build up enough about it.
Yeah.
So, it feels like one of those kind of rambling movies that you're always going to find more detail in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every time you watch it. And
I mean, I think if I watched it again, I would get a better experience of watching it.
Yes.
Just from the knowledge that I have now.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I'll enjoy this movie more the second time around.
Yeah. Whether I actually choose to do that with,
true.
3.5 hours.
It's a lot of time to give up.
It's a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
So there's sections I think that we probably all enjoyed. Tom, what was your kind of favourite moment?
I mean, I love just when it all kicks off.
Yeah.
And all of that I love. One of the things I really like is the sort of turning point in the movie when it becomes apparent that there's one of the samurais, a really young lad who's like 16 or something like that. He's a teenager, and he's been secretly giving his portion of their rice allowance to the young girl who he's kind of got a bit of a thing for. But actually where that rice is going is to this old lady that has no family and there's no one to look after her. And one of the other really cool characters, whose name I can't remember, Adam will probably remember, is the kind of the really serious samurai.
Yeah.
Who he's just like it's all about honing his craft, and he spots what's he called? Do you know the one I mean?
Yes.
The master swordsman.
Yeah, the master swordsman. Yeah,
it's Kyuzo.
Kyuzo. Yeah, so he spots the young lad and he finds out about the thing.
Yeah.
And at dinner that night, the young lad's trying to hide some of his rice away, and Kyuzo just goes, "Don't worry, I'll give her my rice this evening."
Yeah.
And then they're like, what's all this about? And they go and they see this old lady. And it's that point where they start sharing their rice with her, and they're like, we're going to look after her. And it's at that point that you realise that these 7 guys who have been hired actually do care. They care about the village. And the villagers learn that not only are they there because they're being paid, but they're there because they care. And it's kind of a little sort of turning point within the village.
Yes.
As to like, these guys, they're actually on our side. They're not just being paid to be here.
The entire community has a story arc there.
Yeah.
And that's really nice.
Yeah.
That's the kind of touch you wouldn't get in movies today.
No.
That didn't have a significant amount of a personal investment in the film.
Interestingly, that's the bit that I wrote down as kind of my favourite moments.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the section in the middle where you kind of everything's building to the attack, but you get that shift in kind of 7 strangers appearing in the village, and you get the shift to, like you say, they're emotionally invested and they want to help, and everything becomes more of a community. And I think it makes the end, because they take the time to show that through the film, I think it makes the ending more poignant because, you know, once again, like, I think the lead kind of samurai, I can't remember exactly what he says, but he says something like, you know, we're not the winners because we have to leave now, basically.
We've lost.
Yeah.
The farmers are the ones who won.
Yeah, because they have land, and what he's not saying is that they have each other, and, you know, we have no one now because we're just going to go off and go our separate ways.
Yeah.
So that was probably my favorite moment. And I also really liked the ending where they're having that conversation and there's the 3 like survivors, and then the camera kind of pans and you get the 4 graves above.
Yeah.
I thought that was just a really nice little touch.
It was a great shot.
Yeah. Adam, how about you? What are your favorite moments?
I really liked the way the community comes around. The way the community really comes around to the samurai. What I liked seeing all the battle tactics that Shimada comes up with, even though the last one is just absolute impatient rubbish. You know, the last where there are 13 bandits left.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or 14.
Because for some reason the bandits go in a third of their number at a time, and the bandits have worse tactics, I think.
Well, they don't. No, they rush in at once, but they get cut off.
Yeah.
So the plan is to cut them off into small waves and then deal with
each wave.
Yeah, but I really liked the one at a time thing he had the day before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was better.
Good.
The reason was because they do explain why they changed their tactic, and it's because that they realise that they've lost some of their best guys by that point.
Yeah.
They're tired.
Yeah.
The townspeople are tired, and that they won't make it through a continued
another
miniature assault.
Days,
and there's more chance that they will win in one big final battle.
Yeah.
So that's why he changes his tactic.
I mean, that's a fair reasoning, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked the fight scenes. I kinda did like the early scenes where they're recruiting samurai and they're having trouble. I didn't really like much involving the villagers. I didn't warm to them. No. Manzo was terrible.
Yeah.
Yohei was the worst.
Oh.
I
know he died, but he's the worst.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I think for me, it's called the Seven Samurai for a reason, and it's the charisma that they have that draw you to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And you're right, the villagers are not that.
They're not nice.
They're not lovable.
And the fact that they're not, they weren't invited to join the community at the end.
No.
No, and that's what kind of I find really interesting, because it kind of seems like I was watching it and thinking, oh, actually, these kind of wandering samurai, the survivors, are going to be invited back into the community.
They're bonding, right?
Yeah.
They're
and
getting
there's all
along.
these shared experiences, even though,
they're
like you say,
friends.
The villagers aren't super, super lovable. You still see like a shift in kind of the relationships, but then it doesn't follow through to the ending.
No, because they're from different classes.
Yeah.
So the samurai are a class apart from the farmers, and they're a class. Well, in theory, they are several classes above the farmers.
Yeah.
But they are Ronin or whatever. They don't have their masters.
Ronin effectively have no class. Ronin are beggars. Samurai, once they have a lord, are then elevated by an order of magnitude. But if they're Ronin, they're beggars with swords.
Right.
That's why they'd stay around places looking for mercenary work for food. It's no life for anyone. They don't own a home.
I think it's such
because a lord provides it.
Yeah. I think it's just that thing with, like, it's obviously to do with that very specific class culture.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just,
I was just kind of expecting, like, hey, maybe they want to establish some kind of town guard.
Yeah.
It's only 3 of them. You can put them up.
And that's kind of what I was hoping for at the end. And it's like,
build them a house, build them a barracks, and they can live with you.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Because they did all get along when they were fighting, and they were training them. It wasn't like they just kind of said, sit down and be quiet, and we'll
defend you.
It was like, no, we want to actually improve, the village and the community and make you better and make you able to fight off bandits, without having to rely on, having to source Seven Samurai every time.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite character?
I liked Heihachi. He's the first of the samurai to die. He's the one who chops wood.
Oh, yeah.
And then he gets shot shortly before the first battle. But he was really funny. He's the one that played with the drunken lead.
Yes.
By teasing him with his sword. He was fun. He was nice.
Yeah.
Who else did I like? I liked the lead.
Yeah, I liked the lead.
The lead... So, there's a lead on the poster, and there's who I consider the lead to be.
Yeah.
I think... Shimada?
It's, okay, so there's...
right.
Kanbei Shimada is the character.
Yeah.
And Takashi Shimura is the actor.
Shimura is the actor. So I liked Shimada.
He's the lead in Ikaru.
Oh, okay.
And he's amazing in that, and I think he's brilliant in this. I think hands down for me, it's him.
Yeah, that's
as in terms of acting and the character.
He's a good actor.
Great actor.
For that,
so good.
He'd be considered an excellent actor today. And if you've been following this podcast, you know that from me is quite a big compliment, because I think 70-year-old films generally feature bad stage acting. But he just... He was in the shoes.
I will dig out for you Ikaru, because you should watch that.
How long is it?
That's a good point, actually. I think it's another long film. But essentially, imagine... This is a really reductive way of explaining that movie, but imagine him as... James Stewart in... what's the movie called? Frank Capra. It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
So imagine like a Japanese version of It's a Wonderful Life, kind of, but he's the lead. That's a really like base way of talking about this movie.
I can really imagine it.
Yeah. And he is amazing, and it's a really great movie, and he's just got such presence.
Yeah, he's got like a magnitude about him on camera.
Yeah. And he does. In fact, look, his IMDb profile page. That's an image from Ikaru.
Right. So the lead that the film considers the lead to be Toshiro Mifune.
Yeah. So he was the big star.
Yeah. So he's the guy who's drunk.
Yeah.
We probably get almost as much screen time with him as we do with Shimada.
Mm-hmm.
And we see a lot of his butt.
Yes, you do.
See.
But I didn't like him.
Yeah, I didn't like him until the very end. And I was like, okay. He's not my favourite character.
He gives his life taking down the boss of the bandits.
Yes, and he goes and saves the child from the mill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he has this, like emotional breakdown where he's like, this is what happened to me. And you kind of understand why he drinks and why he's got such a bee in his bonnet about, samurai and bandits and farmers.
Too much heart, that guy. Too much heart.
Too much heart to be a samurai, I feel.
Yeah, well, I think
situation.
Quite a lot of booty too.
I think the thing is, he's obviously family killed by raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's possibly been rescued and saved by samurai who then just essentially dumped him. That's so that's the source of his conflict, like you say. But he's an incredibly complex character.
Yeah.
Yes.
And interestingly, he was given quite a lot of free reign.
Oh, really?
So Akira Kurosawa is kind of like the Stanley Kubrick of Japan. Like he's that kind of very, very, very controlling, relentless director. Take after take, spends huge amounts of money trying to get stuff done exactly how he wants it. The company that made this film had a studio, but he refused to shoot there. Instead, he had the whole village built, and like all that kind of stuff. And he wouldn't relinquish that much, but he would for Toshiro. He would allow him to kind of do his thing a little bit more. And they made quite a few movies together.
Okay.
Yeah, so
he screamed all his lines though.
Yeah, well, he says this is his favourite role that he did because he was given that sort of free reign.
Freedom. Yeah. I mean, picking up on that.
How about you?
Oh, favourite character? Yeah, it's Kanbei.
Kanbei. Yeah.
I think 100%. I did, like I said, after you learn everything about the lead that's on the poster, I did my perspective shifted slightly, and I thought, oh, okay, but I didn't like his acting because he's a bit too he jumps around a lot, and
he's quite schizophrenic.
And
he acts like a chimpanzee,
sort of skittish, and he shouts,
screaming and beating his chest and hopping up and down.
And I think if that had been pared back, ironically, given the freedom, obviously he decided to do that. But if that had been pared back, I think he probably would have stood a chance of being people's favourite character more, because the character itself is great and really interesting and a really great part to play. But it doesn't come across as much, I don't think, with that sort of, I don't know, animalistic almost, like, behaviour. But other than that, it's, absolutely, Leader of the Samurai. He was just fantastic every time he was on screen, pretty much. But speaking of kind of some of the, shouting-y, acting-y stuff, I think for me, trying to figure out kind of what was a little bit peculiar, what doesn't quite stand up, it's some of that, like, acting and some of the scenes where I was like, I just can't relate to it because it's so overacted isn't really the word, but it was just
kind of is. That's what I wrote down.
It doesn't feel like overacting. It just feels like
screaming
lack
at each
of understanding
from half a
well, like that would be like us
from 3 feet away, just screaming at each other, blowing out the microphones, and that's always what really drives me mad about older films, that they just blow out the mics.
I don't think they're blowing out the mic. That's probably due to the process of copying and copying and copying and copying.
It's
just
fried.
The audio degrading.
It's fried.
Yeah, it's not the best. But then that's not a disservice to the film. It's just like you say, it's the copying and the where we are now watching it. But I think for me, some of the scenes were just a little hard to believe, I guess.
Okay.
Because of that, it kind of took away from the sort of how impressive of a film it should be, and is, I guess it is regarded as that. But for me, watching it for the first time, I was a bit like, And
it's not even necessarily all the screaming for me, because there was a lot of screaming, but then you had characters like Yohei or Manzo or Manzo's daughter, Shino? Shino sounds right. Yeah. So those 3 characters had crying scenes.
Yes. So their crying was just not.
It was mad.
Not good.
It was like a baby's cry, just sort of like pitched down to an adult's voice.
It was just kind of.
And it would keep going, and it was clearly ADR'd because they'd stop crying, but the crying track would continue. And I got so sick of listening to Shino cry in one scene, I just dipped the sound.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
It was those types of moments that for me just didn't sit quite right.
It's not believable.
No. And then all the investment that you're making in the rest of the film is kind of undercut by that. So that for me was kind of what's a little bit peculiar. Tom, anything to add about what's a little bit odd or something that you kind of thought, I don't really love that?
I don't think so, because I kind of I just kind of take that as part and parcel of a movie of this era and this region.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
you can't expect modern delivery.
No, and I think
realistic delivery.
No. Yeah, I think we have to take that into account with a lot of the films that we talk about.
Yeah.
I bet you wouldn't notice it as much if you didn't have Takashi Shimura's performance next to it, because his style of acting,
that's probably true.
He is a
leagues ahead of his
phenomenal screen actor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I think that's the big difference. He's an absolute screen actor,
yes.
And then some of the other people they're more stagey or what have you.
Yeah.
So I think, it's difficult to kind of make that argument really, but I don't know. I don't find anything particularly odd or weird about it. I just think it's just good movie making.
Great. Adam, anything that you thought, other than
weird.
the stuff we've talked about, that was
other than the overacting and, in one case, slight underacting, the archer samurai would always be smiling and looking at a lighting rig or something while he was delivering his line. He was the only one who did it. He would be smiling a lot when he was delivering his lines and sort of looking at a weird part of space. I'd love to figure out what's going on there.
I think he's just supposed to be a bit kind of...
A bit jovial.
Yeah, a bit
lackadaisical.
Loved Heihachi. What a dude. Other than that, no. I was surprised by how not strange I thought a lot of Akira Kurosawa's directing decisions were.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if he was making that film today on a modern budget with modern... Like, if he travelled forward in time...
Yeah.
60 years... and made this film with all the exact same decisions he made today, we wouldn't be able to tell.
No.
Wouldn't be able to tell at all. Because, he does the fight scene in the rain, he does slow motion.
Yeah.
He's
I was really surprised
well
to see
ahead of
that
his time.
there.
Well ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think him and the actor that we all said was our favourite, I'm sorry, I can't remember how to pronounce his name. Both of them are super... Like, the skill that you see through this film in those two people is incredible.
Yeah, I think Kurosawa himself, he was quite a fan of Western film.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think
you can tell.
Yeah, you totally see that.
You can tell,
in the
but he
battle
was exceeding a lot of his contemporaries.
Yeah, and I think what was so funny though is that he would take that and then he would take kind of like some of the aesthetic and the way the camera moves and stuff like that, but he would do his own thing with it, and then that became influential back to European and American cinema hugely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all sorts of people like George Lucas has said that Star Wars is essentially like a rip-off of one of Kurosawa's movies, and there's a whole host of people that have
some of his shots are so nice, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And the fight choreography isn't particularly... It's not what we'd consider nowadays as being tight.
No.
But very believable.
I think that's the thing. It's believable. Like, sometimes you watch kind of modern action films and it's supposed to be like a sprawling bar fight.
Yeah.
And it's choreographed so beautifully. It's completely unbelievable that drunk people would be doing that.
How come that drunken farmer knows kung fu?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not doing kung fu, but he's doing kung fu-esque things.
Exactly.
It's like that's crazy.
And that's what's really nice about this is the villagers, when you see them taking part, they are kind of just sort of haphazardly trying to join in the fight because that's what they would have been doing.
They're moving like flocks of sheep with their bamboo spears.
They see a bandit down and they're like, quick, everybody run.
Yeah.
It's like, even though they've had a bit of training from the samurai, that's believable as to how they would be behaving.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting fact about Kurosawa. He was a big fan of Sergei Eisenstein. He was one of the big Soviet directors who pioneered editing techniques.
Oh, really?
And Kurosawa edited his own films as well.
Akira Kurosawa quickly earned a reputation with his crew as the world's greatest editor because of his practice of editing late at night during the shoot. He described this as a practical necessity that is incomprehensible to most directors who on major productions spent at least several months with their editors assembling and cutting the film after shooting is completed.
Wow, where did you find that?
That's interesting.
That's just on the trivia for Seven Samurai.
Wow.
So I don't know how much editing he got from each day's shoot, but
it wouldn't be the same day, but it would be
like that.
Yeah. I mean, you could certainly, because I mean that's the thing. Obviously, shot on film, so you've got the turnaround time. So it wouldn't necessarily be dailies, but it would be a couple of days after.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, people do that now.
How do you have the time as a director?
I've heard that. I mean, I think it was. I heard about Kevin Smith was saying that he would shoot for a day, and then he would edit that scene for a few hours each night, show it to people in the morning.
Yeah, I suppose
just
it depends
stuff
what
together. Which I mean, obviously
what the
now
call sheet looks like.
Yeah, but with digital technology now, it's some productions are even having an editor there, so that as the footage is getting transferred, they're starting to put rough assemblies and cuts together.
Back to distributors and producers. How you getting on?
Yeah. And it's, it's a great workflow. But I would never have thought that it was happening that early.
No.
And it makes
that's
sense.
Incredible.
He's so particular.
Yeah.
About what he's doing.
But you can see that though, like even just in the film, you can see that there's such eye for detail.
There is what you say, eye for detail. The young girl love interest. There's a scene. It's kind of like the love scene between her and the young samurai, and he wanted her eyes to kind of glow, so they rigged up a series of reflective surfaces on the floor and bounce lights. And they did so many takes,
just like in The Mummy.
They spent so long doing those takes, they literally damaged her eyeyesight permanently.
Oh my
because
goodness.
of the amount of light that was being
That's awful.
shone into
Just
her
like
eyes.
in Jason and the Argonaut.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's kind of like you get an idea of his perfectionism and attention to detail, and kind of his will stop at nothing attitude. And he was 6 foot tall, imposing. I can't imagine people can argue that much.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. So what's still great about this? I mean, we've talked about bits that we love, but what still holds up? Because I suppose I was a bit reluctant. I'm not reluctant, but I was a bit hesitant when I started watching this because I thought, oh god, it's not a genre that I'm au fait with, and am I gonna enjoy it? And oh my gosh, it's over 3 hours. And actually, I was kind of pleasantly surprised. Like I think we said at the beginning, my attention did dip at times because it's a long film and it's
so
a lot
long
to get through. But I mean, I totally enjoyed this. I thought it was a really great story, and I thought it was good.
I think all of it still holds up, really, aside from, yes, some schlocky acting. And maybe you'll want to see if someone has a 2-hour edit out there.
That's what they showed to American distributors. They cut it down to 1 hour 58 minutes.
That's what you need.
Because
find that version.
They didn't think that they would do it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Magnificent Seven is 2 hours 7 minutes.
Yeah.
At 3 hours and 9 minutes.
Yeah.
It feels every second of it.
Yeah, it does.
This isn't like I can make it through an extended cut of Lord of the Rings. It feels like 2 extended cuts of Lord of the Rings.
Tom, how about you? What still holds up?
I think it holds up on every level.
Every level, yeah.
I think, although not consistently, it has some excellent acting in it.
Yes.
It has some beautiful cinematography. It has some excellent direction. It has a fantastically straightforward but engaging story that's easy to follow.
Yes.
And I think that's why it's done so well outside of Japan.
Yeah. The narrative is solid as hell.
Yeah.
It's just like you can just latch into it and you kind of you know where you're going.
And it's set up instantaneously as well. Like I loved that because straight away you see bandits, you see villagers, and you're like,
you know what the stakes are.
You're like, right, this is what's happening.
Yeah, and and like we said at the beginning, it pulls together all the things that essentially distill down into an action movie. If you you can see the linear arc from this to Die Hard.
Yeah, you can.
Die Hard is just one building, one guy, as opposed to one village, 7 guys.
Yeah,
and it's essentially the same story, and it's been done countless different ways.
How many times? Yeah. So overall, we're fans. Of this movie.
Overall, I'm a fan of this movie.
Yeah,
I think if someone said to me, "Should I watch Seven Samurai?" I'd say yes, but.
Yes.
Rather than hell yes.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I would as well. And I'd, it would be, prepare yourself for the bits of overacting and make sure you're not tired because you need to pay attention.
Yeah.
And make sure, you've got lots of popcorn.
Yeah, lots of popcorn.
Lots.
It made me want to watch
3 bags.
more Kurosawa movies.
It made me... I want to rewatch this, but I want to see the 2-hour version.
Yes.
Do you know what? This made me want to watch more Takeshi Shimura movies. And then I discovered he'd made 274.
Oh, well, there you go.
Wow.
So there's a bit of a back catalogue to walk.
Catch up with you in 2023, so you're getting along.
In fact, in this year, in 1954 alone, he made...
in this year, still alive.
He made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 movies.
Just a few then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
vast.
Yeah, I think just going back to what we were talking about half an hour ago, with one other thing I'd improve is giving each samurai a personality and a speciality.
Yeah.
So one thing that really did strike me watching this film is that the katana really is a low tier dog turd weapon for their job. Mounted combat, getting a guy off his horse.
Yeah.
A sword isn't your job for that.
No.
What you really could have done with was a spear, and I think a samurai would likely bring the right tool to the show.
Yeah. Well, and 7 horses would have been.
Yeah.
Helpful.
But just a decent halberd. I know it's the 16th century. Halberds hadn't really come into.
I didn't understand why they didn't take. When
the bamboo spears were better for the job than the swords.
To get them off their horse, yeah.
It's all that tradition and honour and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
right?
almost that.
But
certainly.
when the 3 bandits are doing the recce and they come to the village and then they kill them before they get back to they have 3 horses. I'm like, why didn't you take their horses?
I suppose taking horses isn't particularly.
They do.
Yeah, but horses, as far as a defensive thing, not so handy. What you really want is a long staff. Then they've got these katanas, and they're using them to stab. They're using stabbing motions to kill people. Katana's not great stabbing weapons.
I mean, my battle strategy is probably not as on point as it should be.
You want a pole arm.
In more detail.
What you want a pole arm to unseat him from his horse or kill the horse. If you can kill the horse, the fall will likely,
No, don't kill the horses.
Definitely stun the guy who's fallen. If not, incapacitate him. You want a good spear. The end.
So now that we're moving on from weapons,
forcibly,
you said you would have liked them each to have like a little speciality, and that kind of rang a bell because they do in the Magnificent Seven, or at least they have more defined character traits.
Yeah.
So Yul Brynner, who is essentially comparable to Kanbei, is a Cajun gunslinger, and he's the leader. So he's gunslinger, he's the leader. And you've got Steve McQueen, and he's the drifter. So he's a bit more wayward and kind of just kind of moves from place to place. Charles Bronson, he's the professional, but he needs money. So he's got very clear motivations about getting paid. Robert Vaughn is a traumatized veteran of the Civil War. Brad Dexter as Harry Luck he's like a fortune seeker. He's just looking for his big treasure chest of gold. James Coburn is Brit, and he's a knife expert. And Horst Burkholz is Chico, and he's the young guy. He's the hot-blooded kind of trying to prove himself.
I've just remembered just now, just while you were saying that I've seen the remake of the Magnificent Seven.
Oh, the remake is a remake
with Chris Pratt.
Right. Okay.
Oh. I've absolutely not seen that and have no intention of seeing it.
No, it's not good.
That doesn't surprise me, no. I mean, I think that's really interesting because that would have been great, like you say, in this, to have a little bit more, not necessarily character development, but just a bit more individualization of each of them.
Even if you've got no time for that, but I mean, you've got 3 hours and 9 minutes. What do you not have time for? But even if in a world where you have no time for that, make one of them the archer, one of them the sword guy, one of them the knife guy, one of them the traps guy, one of them the ninja. Whatever you need to do to just make them all unique and stand out in the way that they go about things.
Yeah.
Or even if you have to have it all based on the fact that they have their samurai sword, you could have had that one is totally devoted to practice and make a little bit more.
They did have one of those.
They did, and you could have just made a little bit more of, oh, where is he?
Yeah.
Oh, he's practicing.
Well, they all did have their sword, and it was a point of pride, and, losing your sword would be a horrific dishonor. But they also did use other weapons. They did use bows. They did use pole arms. And it would have just been a very nice way of being able to see, even from far away, if you wanted to shoot a big battle scene, if you could see a guy far off in the distance firing a bow and arrow, and you'd be like, he's there.
I know who that is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you two guys, you'd like the 60s of Magnificent Seven. Yeah. I think you'd really enjoy it.
Oh, I've seen the Yul Brynner.
You've seen the Yul Brynner one, yeah.
Because, even Lord of the Rings, if you think about that, the Fellowship of the Ring, and they all have like a different thing that they do.
Yes.
Gimli's got a battle axe. Legolas has a bow. Gandalf has a staff. Aragorn has a long sword.
Yep.
Boromir has a shield.
But then I guess you are restricted because they are all 7 samurai.
Yeah, exactly, But samurai, so I was saying though, samurai do have
kind of pulls you back.
They have different things they can do.
Exactly. Do we have anything to add?
Bald caps. Good God.
Yeah.
They half of them are just falling off. Yeah. You can see air bubbles in the top of people's heads constantly.
That was not great.
If you assume that all of these guys were as hardworking as Takeshi Shimura, who made 9 movies that year, then they don't have time to cut their hair for every single role. And
that's fair enough.
Yeah, these guys are sort of jobbing actors. So yeah, unfortunately, bald caps ahoy.
Bald caps.
Got to be there.
Yeah, otherwise, I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm a lot happier about Seven Samurai than I have been about a lot of other films from the era.
Fair enough.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, thumbs up for me. I thought it was a good film.
1 thumb up.
One thumb.
But don't ask where.
And you enjoyed it too,
Yeah,
John?
I did. I really liked it, yeah.
Well, go and watch it, I guess, is our advice, but make sure you allow plenty of time.
Book off a weekend, go and watch Seven Samurai.
Rehydrate, eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plan that into your weekend. But thank you very much for listening.
I suppose if they're listening to this, they have watched Seven Samurai because you told them to.
Oh, if you took my advice, but maybe they didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, maybe they didn't.
Well, no, okay, so what you're saying is, you've watched Seven Samurai. Chances are you enjoyed it like we did. Now go and tell a friend to watch it.
There we go. Now go and tell a friend to watch it and then listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you for listening and see you next week where we are going to be talking about...
Footloose.
That's what we're going to be talking about last week.
Footloose.
There we go. Thanks, Adam. So yeah, tune in and hear what we all think about Footloose. If we can stop dancing long enough to come and sit at the microphone to talk about it.
How long is it?
It's 4 hours, Adam.
Yeah. No.
4 hours of dancing.
Goddamn dance movies.
So yeah, we'll see you there.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
This podcast was recorded in the Upbeat Studio in Soho. For studio inquiries, drop us an email on studio@upbeatproductions.com. You can also find us on Twitter. Head to @upbeatprod to see what we're up to, and @upbeat_ents for our film coverage and entertainment news.